Starting off with some definitions, we have first glaciers, which are huge masses of ice formed from compacted snow. Next, we have ice sheets, which are masses of glacier ice that covers the surrounding terrain and is greater than 50,000 square kilometers or equivalent to 20,000 square miles. And lastly, we have the cryosphere, which is a term for the cold regions of the planet where water persists in a frozen form. These regions are covered with glaciers and ice sheets or with permanently frozen soil. The two most important regions of the cryosphere are the continental ice sheets of Antarctica and Greenland.
What exactly caused sea ice to melt? There are a lot of reasons why sea ice are beginning to melt, but we're only going to talk about one cause. The increases in carbon dioxide has been linked with higher temperatures, and as a result, sea ice has been melting due to these increases. More importantly, how do we know that these temperatures aren't due to natural factors? There are many ways to prove this, but one way, how we came to conclude that increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide was due to fossil fuel combustion instead of volcanoes, oceans, or related radioactivity of carbon. Well, if we look at the different isotopes of carbon, we can see that they are almost identical to each other, but with the exception of each isotope contains a different amount of neutrons. With this being said, we can look at past proxies like tree rings to give us indication of atmospheric radioactivity. So these tree rings indicate that radioactivity has been declining since the Industrial Revolution, and this indicates that the increases in carbon dioxide is due to radiocarbon dead sources like volcanoes, deep oceans, and fossil fuels. We can look further into that by observing the other two isotopes, carbon-12 and carbon-13. Just like radioactive carbon has been decreasing since the Industrial Revolution, the ratio between carbon-13 and carbon-12 has also been decreasing at a rate that can only be explained by very low carbon-13 to 12 ratios achieved through photosynthesis. This concludes that non-plant derived carbon sources like volcanoes and oceans can be eliminated from the possible causes, and we can come to the conclusion that increases in atmospheric carbon dioxide is due to fossil fuel combustion. As you just saw in that previous clip, we are going to move on to another possible reason why sea ice is melting. As you can see on the screen, there is a hysteresis loop where there are two stable states, and there are also two tipping points in this diagram. More specifically, pertaining to the clip, the tipping point for sea ice melting is located on the top right of the diagram in red. This tipping point is described by unstoppable melting of the sea ice due to the climate warming up past the threshold for sea ice melting.
In the polar regions, we see that there is a sea ice reduction at a rate of 9 to 14%, which exposes the darker ocean and causes more warming. The warming in the Arctic is 2 times the rate of the globe, while the warming on land is 5 times the rate of the Arctic. In addition to the Arctic warming, over the past 2 decades, Greenland and West Antarctica ice sheets have been decreasing. For the sea ice cover, under the RCP 8.5, our models will predict that the Arctic Ocean will become ice-free later this century.